All right, we're going to begin talking about the Romantic period today. And as we go along, these are going to be recorded in little segments. So, the introduction to Romantic. Now, Romantic period started in 1825. And remember, we've talked a lot about how Beethoven was the bridge from the classical to the Romantic. He went against the logic and order and structure that they'd had in the classical period when he started adding the choir to the symphony, when he added the different chromaticism, the different harmonics, lots more dissonance in the music, lots more emotion and feeling in the music. So that's when the Romantic period began. Now, during the Romantic period, we're going to have a lot of turn away from the structure of the classical due to the French Revolution, where they were more interested in fraternity, brotherhood, liberty, equality, all of those things that were the tenets of the French Revolution. We're going to see that in the literature, in John Keats, Percy Shelley, Lord Byron, the English writers, the French writer Victor Hugo, who wrote Les Miserables, the German writer Heinrich Heine, who is going to be the writer of some of the German literature of the time, that all of them were more interested in the turning away from the aristocracy, them not being the importance, not being on the aristocracy, but on the peasant, on the people. And so we're going to see that in playing out in the music as well, and in the art. Some of our composers at the time are going to use their folk music of their homelands and put them into their symphonies and write them into the music to make them very nationalistic. We're going to be talking about that as well. We have several new genres that were developed during the Romantic period. The symphony gets longer. They add more instrumentation. We get the piccolos on the top. We get the tubas and the contrabassoons down in the bottom to get a lot more broader range of sound and dynamic changes that we'll have. We can go from very, very soft to very, very loud, that a lot more dynamic levels of change. We're going to move away from having the person who is playing the piano also conducting, or the first violinist conducting the orchestra. That will no longer be considered work during the Romantic period, because they've added more instruments. The orchestration gets a lot more difficult. So the position of conductor was established during the Romantic period, to have one person who is in charge of keeping everything together. And that conductor will not play an instrument, not be a soloist or a featured player in any of the instrumentation. They're really just, their job is to conduct. Some of the new genres that are created during this time period, we have program music, which is basically music that is to set a thing, to go along with a play or a poem or a story, something that kind of tells a story with the music. It's instrumental, but it tells us, the composer is trying to set a scene in your mind with the music. Very much the same way that the Italian Renaissance composers had used word painting so that the music and the text were married together and went along together. This, there's no lyrics in this. It's instrumental, but they want the instruments to sound and set the stage for this particular theme, this particular idea that's played out in the program music. It came to be called program music. Many times there would be description or the poem or whatever they were doing written into the program, so it was called program music. Now that is very different from music for music's itself sake, which is called absolute music. And some composers in the Romantic period felt like music should be able to stand alone. It shouldn't need a story to go along with it. It shouldn't need a poem or a scene to say it, or a play, that it should stand on its own. And so we have music for music's sake, which is called absolute music. And then we have music that went along with a play or a story or a poem, and that was program music. So there's two different genres there. we're going to have several new musicians that come to the forefront that become idolized by the people. You know, much the same way that we idolize our, you know, pop stars. We download them on YouTube. We, you know, watch them. We download their music to our phone, to our, we follow their life. We follow them on Instagram or whatever. We keep up with what's going on with them. We idolize these musicians. In much the same way, these people, they did not have social media, they did not have these opportunities, but they followed them from one venue to another to watch their performances, to listen to them play. We have Franz Liszt, who was a very famous pianist, who was also a composer that we will talk about, but Franz Liszt was a virtuoso pianist. Nicolai Paganini was a virtuoso Italian violinist who was highly revered and idolized, and people, you know, followed him in much the same way. So we'll be talking about some of those. We'll also be talking about some of this new. Well, I did mention the new instrumentation that's going to be added. The genre of the German Lied, that's the Italian, it's a German song that tells a story. And we have one composer who wrote over 600 of those. And so that becomes a very big genre during the Romantic period. So we'll have several different composers and different countries to talk about during the next few lessons. So this concludes our introduction to Romantic. Bye for now. See you later.